welcome back. I hope you're gonna enjoy this video. I am Sarah, and I'm gonna do a wrap-up for all of the books that I read in August. I'm really excited for this video. I will be posting this probably on the 6th of September, but I'm filming this on the 31st of August. I read 9 books this month, and I'm very happy with that amount. I read 6 books in 8 days. Like, for the rest of the month, I wasn't reading at all. I was just kind of, I wouldn't say in a reading slump, but I was feeling slumpy, so I basically didn't read a lot. But then I got like a reading kick, and I was like, I want to film videos reading these books. So I did that, and basically I read 6 books in 8 days. So that's my explanation. 9 books. I'm going to talk about all 9 of them, and we're just going to get into it. So the first book that I read, why did I say that I read in August was The Crimson Moth by Kristen Ciccarelli. This is a very popular book. Like, it has been going around for a while now, and I feel like it could be classified as a book talk or booktube book by now. I have seen a lot of people rate this book 5 stars. I personally rated it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. For like the majority of this book, I was like, okay, I'm probably gonna rate it like 3.75 stars. But then when the ending came, the ending came. Like, I was surprised, and I cried. But that wasn't even, like, the ending just felt so satisfying somehow, even though it ended not on a huge cliffhanger, but it did end on a cliffhanger. It just, I don't know, it felt so satisfying. So I really enjoyed it. Ended up giving it a 4 star, as I said. And this book is about a witch and a witch hunter, and they basically play this, like, cat and mouse game, but they're both the cat, and they're both the mouse as well. So he hunts her because he thinks that she's a witch, and she hunts him because she wants to get information out of him. Like, can you imagine anything better than that? No, you can't. So, this was a really good book, would definitely recommend. The next book that I read was A Deal with the Devil by Elizabeth O'Rourke. I haven't seen many people talk about this book, but I thought it was really good. I think I rated it 4 stars as well. This is a workplace romance, which love. A boss assistant romance, grumpy sunshine. Everything I love in a book. So basically, he needs a new assistant because his old assistant is like taking a leave because he's going to adopt a daughter, and he's like time to settle in with a daughter, obviously. So he gets a new assistant, which is her. He doesn't want her to be his assistant. He's kind of grumpy about it, but eventually they like strike up this agreement, I guess, and things develop from there. This was so fun. I really enjoyed this. It was a very quick read. I found it very easy to read as well. And I also loved how this dude, he's really grumpy, but when he was happy and when he was with her, he wasn't that grumpy. He was giving off golden retriever energy at its finest. And I love that in a book, when he's grumpy, unless it's her. Like, that is so my thing. And obviously in the beginning of this book, he's also grumpy to her, but that eventually, like, passes. He gets less grumpy, and he's happy with her. I love it. Then I read Zodiac Academy. This was interesting. This had been on my TBR for more than a year when I picked this up. I don't know why I didn't read it sooner. It kind of intimidated me for some reason. I ended up rating this a 3.5 star rating. And that is high, considering that I hated this book for the most part. But I'm gonna explain it. So there was bullying in this book. This was a bully romance, and I was like, okay, it can't be that bad, can it? It can be that bad, let me tell you. This was just straight up abuse. I am all here for a dark romance. But when it's abuse, when the love interest is mean, straight up mean to the girl, I'm like, no, this is not okay. I'm not enjoying this. That was the situation with this. Also, it wasn't really clear who the love interest was going to be in this book. Like, there are 2 love interests because there's 2 main characters in this book. This is dual POV. It's following 2 twins, Darcy and Tori. They find out that they're fae. They're magical, and they are like the long-lost princesses. And they're special and stuff. And then there are these heirs, and they don't want them there because they have been trained from birth to take over the throne. But now they get back in there, and they're like, okay, we're going to take over the throne. But they don't want to. And they are mad, they start to bully them, it's a whole thing. But it was fun, and I kind of got over the bullying after a while. I was like, okay, this is okay now. Like, I still wasn't happy with it, but I was like, okay, I can deal with this now. It was okay. But 3.5, I feel like this series has the potential to become a 5-star series, but I guess we'll see. I may make a reading vlog out of reading the next few books in the series, but we'll see about that. After that, I read Play With Me by Becca Mack. This was a really disappointing read. I still gave it a 3.75-star rating, but it was really disappointing. I gave this first book in the series. This is a series, the Playing for Keeps series. The first book I rated 5 stars, but upon further consideration, it was a 4.75 star, but still very high. So I had the highest expectations going into this book. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna love this book. This is gonna be my favorite book ever. It was not at all. This just felt, I'm gonna say the B word. This just was boring. It was a little boring. Not a lot happened. It's about Garrett, Jenny. Jenny is the sister of the male main character in the first book. And the male main character in the first book, Carter, is very protective over Jenny. So he doesn't think any man is good enough for her, that kind of stuff. But he's like overprotective, and it's kind of annoying. And then there's Garrett. He's a teammate of Carter's. And like Jenny and Garrett like hit it off, and they strike up a sexual relationship. Because they're both not ready for a real relationship, I guess. I don't know anymore. For this length of a book, it was way too long. Could have been shortened by a lot of pages, and it was disappointing. But I feel like I'm only saying the negative things right now. But it was like a fine book. The characters, I like the characters. Sometimes they were a little bit annoying, but other times I was like, oh, this is kind of nice. I like reading about them. But there was also a lot of going back and forth, and that kind of annoyed me as well. So I don't have much positive to say about this book, but it wasn't like anything negative as well, so it's kind of confusing. Then I read Jasperville. This was really disappointing. I gave this a 2.75 rate. Oh my god. Okay, I'll explain. I DM'd one of my favorite authors, and they freaking replied. That's like, it's not that big of a deal. But I asked them the question, and they answered. So I will need to check, like, right after I film this video. Oh my god, I don't know why I'm crying, but it just surprised me so much. I didn't expect to get a reply, and especially not from my favorite author. Okay, keep on talking about Jasperville. So I hated Jasper. I freaking hated it. Okay, the smell, it's not gonna go off my face. So when I tell you that I hated this book, I'm saying it with a smile, even though I really, really hated this book. 2.75 is not a bad rating at all. But I still hated Jasper. Like, the book for the rest was fine. I didn't love it, but I did enjoy it. And for the first, like, 150 pages to 200 pages, I was like, oh, this is fine. Like, this is gonna be, like, a 3.25 star rating. Then Jasper happened. He was just so inconsiderate. He only thought about himself. He was selfish. He gave a reason for it, but I just thought it was not that valid. I don't know. Yeah, 2.75. I also, like, there were some unresolved issues in this book, and that bothered me because I felt like those should have been resolved, but that didn't happen. And it was just kind of annoying. So 2.75 feels like a fair rating. Kate by Tate James. This is part of the Madison Kate series. This is the final book in that series. And I'm so happy that I finished it because I really, really enjoyed it, but it got dragged out way too much. I am excited for the next series in the universe though, like the Hades series. So excited for that. But basically, the series is about Madison Cade, and she basically gets framed for this crime that she didn't commit. And now the guys that framed her live in her house after she, like, moves back to her home. That's fun, right? This is a reverse harem, like, romance. And we follow, like, an underlying crime plot throughout this whole book. In this one, the crime story came to a climax, and it ended, and that felt so satisfying. But it was still kind of a disappointment because I feel like 200 pages could have been, like, gone. Could have been gone. It was just so much filler, and I did not enjoy that. So it was a 3-star rating because the ending really, really was fun, and, like, the last 100 pages, it was really odd, but, like, the first 300 pages were so dragged out, but then the last 100 pages, or, like, 150 pages, they went too fast. Like, the last 100 pages went too fast. So it was a very odd combination, but it was still, like, an enjoyable read, so I rated it 3 stars. So it was fine, but, like, yeah, what else can I say, you know? After that, I read an arc I received an ARC. Yes, I received an ARC. I am so happy. Like, the author was on Instagram saying, like, yeah, I have some ARC left. Do any of you want them? So I was like, yeah, give me some. So I gave her my email, and she gave me an ARC. I was so happy, and I really enjoyed this book. It's Perfect Praise by Grace Pierce. This is a very unpopular author, which I think should be changed immediately because this book was so freaking good. It's a golf romance, and before you say, no way, I'm not gonna do that, listen to me. There was a spicy scene involving a golf club. Like, that is enough reason for you to read it. That was different than what I usually read, but I was like, okay, let's go for it. Let's do this. The spicy scenes were definitely spicing. This book, I cannot tell you much about it because it hasn't been released yet. It will be released on the 30th of September. I really loved it. I gave it 4 stars. I really liked the characters. The writing didn't feel like amateur writing at all. It felt like very, very good writing, which I was really surprised by since this author is not popular at all. But I really, really liked it, and I would definitely recommend this book. After that, I read Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan. 5 stars. 5 stars. 5 stars. 5. 6 if I could. 6 if I could. I finished this book yesterday and I completely fell in love with it. This one gave me the same vibes that Beach Read gave me when I read that, like, I don't know, 3 years ago. And that was the last book that gave me that feeling. Until this one. I was like, oh my god. I was like crying because it was gonna end. I was like crying because I was like, no, I don't want this to end. Like, this is so freaking good. And I was also crying because a certain character passed away, and I did not expect that, and it just happened all of a sudden, and I was like, no! The first 60 pages I actually despised. I'm not even exaggerating. I hated it. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna DNF this book. But then the rest of it happened. I don't know what happened, what changed. Did I change, or did this book change? It just went from bad for me to amazing. Like, so amazing. This is about this one character. She's in her 30s. She's at the end of her 30s. She has 3 kids, and she's getting a divorce. And then she meets this guy, and her dog pees on him. And that's how they have a meet cute. So that was cute. And she starts to meet up with him. She starts to have, like, talking to him. And I just thought it was very wholesome, very cute, and I loved it. So 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 freaking stars. Like, it was so good. This was like easy writing, but it felt very poetic in a way as well. So loved it. Go read this one right the fuck now. The last one that I read was Whiskey Business by Elliot Fletcher. I read this one today, actually. I started it last night and then I finished it like 2 hours ago, I think. This was a fun book. I gave it 3.75 star rating. Again, it was fun, it was cute, it was everything that it needed to be for the moment, but it has been like 2 hours since I finished it, and I already cannot remember much of it. So I think if we're like a month along, like, I'm not gonna remember shit about this book, but it's about a Scottish man, and when I say Scottish man, you say James Fraser. Scottish man, James Fraser. Scottish man, James Fraser. Scottishman, James Fraser, Jamie! I love him. I love Outlander. It's about this famous actress. She goes back to her hometown, I think. She doesn't move back there, but she's staying there because her grandfather passed away and she inherited his, like, house, his land. This guy, Malcolm, he lives on that land, and he's like, no way, you're not gonna steal that away from me. And he is also like, why weren't you there when your grandfather passed away? And she has a reason why she wasn't there. And he's kind of mad at her for that. So it's mildly enemies to lovers, but not really because it gets resolved rather quickly. But it was still a really, really fun book. I really enjoyed it. The romance was romancing. This was also more slow burn than I expected. You were like this far in when something happened. More than 200 pages in. You got at least like 200 pages of just light tension, you know? Like, it wasn't like the highest tension, but it was still tension. So that was the last book that I read. That was it. Those were the books that I read in August. These were the books that I read. I read 9 books again, and I think I had a pretty great reading month. It has been a while since I've rated a book lower than 3 stars, but that's okay. Like, it was still a fine book. I just didn't enjoy the guy character. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you get any recommendation out of this, let it be Summer Romance by Annabelle Monaghan because it was so good. You should definitely read it if you haven't already. And that was it for this video. If you want to see more of me, subscribe and like this video, and hope to see you again. Bye-bye!